This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. For example, let's say disclosure of accounting policies. It is applicable to all, irrespective of my level. Valuation of inventories. This is applicable to all. Then you can go to contingency and events occurring after balance sheet date. Net profit for the period. Then you can say construction contracts and revenue recognition. These are certain key accounting standards which are applicable to all, irrespective of my level, because these are the basic accounting standards which form your, which helps in building up your financial statement. These contain the basic principles of the accounting. So again, accounting for government grants. Then you can say borrowing cost. So these are the accounting standards applicable to all entities irrespective of the level. Let me go further down. Taxes is also applicable to all the levels, but for the level 4 there is an exemption. I'll talk about the exemption in detail. See, and there is no rest of the accounting standard which is applicable to all the entities. Either it's applicable with the partial exemption or either it's not applicable. Okay, let us discuss, as I told you, discuss the non-applicability and the exemption in detail so that we can understand, okay, what is applicable and what is not applicable for the entities. As I said, AS21, consolidation, accounting for investment in associates. Okay, consolidated financial statement, financial reporting and interest in joint ventures. These accounting standards are not applicable to level 2, level 3, and level 4 entities. The reason why there is reason because these accounting standards are very complex, number one, and they require they are applicable only at a place or relevant at the place where there is a use transaction. However, there is no transaction. These accounting standard does not yield that much what you say value for in case of a reporting. For your, in case of a level 4 entities, generally there are no such transactions that are covered under amalgamation or jointly controlled operations. So that's why these are kept out of the scope for those level 4 entities. Okay, now we'll discuss each exemption in detail one by one. Okay, let me take the first exemption with the plant, property and equipment. This exemption is available to level 3 and level 4 entities. Okay, we saw the criteria. Level and level 3 10 crore and borrowings 2 crore, and level 4 is a less than 10 crores and borrowings less than 2 crores. Means a normal trader or a normal person who has a turnover less than 10 crores. It's a level 4 basically. So most of the small traders or the individuals actually falls under level 4 category. Okay, now when I say a level 4 category, what is the exemption given is plant, property, equipment. Now this is the basically disclosure part. Okay, the enterprise is encouraged to disclose the following. Now in case of a small entities, this disclosure is not required. What is the disclosure? Is the carrying amount of temporary idle property or plant and equipment, gross carrying amount of fully depreciated property, each revalued class of property. Okay,
consent of partner ची file है ना, ती normal paper वर काढायची.
And carrying amount of plant and property equipment retired from active use. These are usually not present in case of a level 3 and level 4 entity. Hence these are kept out of the scope. This is a disclosure requirement for specific for this purpose. Okay, so this was the exemption. Now when I say exemption, now what the exemption means is that exemption usually, now usually that exemption is
जे आहेत ते तसेच्या तसे प्रिंट आउट करायचे. नॉर्मल पेपरवर इंडिव्हिज्युअल माणसाने सही करायची, त्याचं नाव लिहायचं.
I'll request to the
4 नंबरचं जे पान आहे ते तुमच्या फायरमॅन सर्व्हिसेसच्या लेटर हेडवर पाहिजे. ते वेगळं आहे, हे वेगळं आहे, ऍडिशनल आहे.
Okay. Yeah. So yes.
Address तुम्ही जुना वापरला तर बेटर आहे.
I'll request the participants to keep themselves on the mute for now. It will be great.
तिघांचे पण सह्या करा.
अमित जी,
okay, yeah, that's great. Thank you. Sorry for the inconvenience. Okay, Now, when I say exemption, whatever provisions I will be discussing, those provisions are not applicable. Okay. Hence, rest of the standard to that particular person is applicable in detail. So when I say a level 4 entity, okay, and plant property and equipment, so this disclosure part is not applicable, which is para 87. Usually para 87 is not applicable for the disclosure point of view, which talks about idle property and plant and equipment, or fully depreciated disclosure of fully depreciated property. You can say the revalued class of plant and property, or you can say plant and property required from active use. This is not applicable. Rest of the whole standard is applicable to particular that entity. Okay. Now, second is my foreign exchange, AS11. Now, what is not applicable to AS11? Which para is para 44, which talks about enterprise foreign currency risk management disclosure. Okay, risk management policy disclosure. There is a separate disclosure which we need to do, that is not applicable. Most of these things I'm talking about here is not applicable for those entities, and rest of the standard is applicable. Okay. Now again, coming for accounting for investment, AS13. What is not applicable, we need to see. Just a moment. Yeah. There is a para 35F which talk about other disclosure as specifically required by the relevant statute governing the enterprise. Okay. This is not applicable to level 4 entity. So any other disclosure, usually when I say a non-corporate entity, these are hardly governed by any statute or any law. Okay. So hence that is being excluded. So for if I say individual person is already governed by, let's say if it has a no tax audit, then I don't think so that person has been governed by any audit or anything. Yeah, there are acts which require them to maintain books of account. Income tax also requires them to maintain books of account when a particular amount of turnover they cross it, not 1 crore but 25 lakhs actually. So in that case they need to maintain the books of account. In the various acts they also require to maintain books of account, but again, there is a detailed guideline how to maintain the books of account? Answer is no. In that case, when there is no detailed guideline available that how to maintain books of accounts, in that case, this classification, entity level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4 will come into the picture. When there is no detailed bifurcation given, we need to follow this bifurcation. Then moving to my another standard, which talks about, which is not applicable, that is amalgamation. We already talked about that is not applicable to level 4 entities. Then coming to employee benefits. Now, employee benefits is there are huge exemption given in this standard to level 2 and level 3 entities. And this exemption, if I say, is divided into two parts. One, for the level and level 2 entities where the employees are more than 50. Then level 2 and 3 entities where the employees are less than 50. So first we will discuss where the employee level is more than 50. Okay, and what are exemption given. So recognition. So the first exemption goes with recognition and the measurement of the short-term accumulating compensated absence. So this compensated absence measurement is there for we are not required to do this recognition and measurement. Paragraph 11 to 16 are not applicable in this case. Okay. The second thing which is not applicable for the employee benefit is a paragraph 46 and 139 of the standard, which deal with the discounting. Now, discounting when there's a 12 months or more gap period of 12 months or more after the balance sheet date in calculation of the my recognition and the measurement error. Okay. Then the third exemption goes to the recognition and measurement principle only, which are the para 50 and 166. They deal with the defined benefit plans. Now, what is there in the defined benefit plan is, okay, now entities, for these entities where you have a more than 50 employees, these entities should actuarially determine, they need to perform, they need to determine actuarially the accrued liability of the defined benefit plans by using the project unit method. Okay. they need to use they need to get it done by accrual by performing actual valuation by using project unit method, and they need to determine the accrued liability by this way, and discounting rate should be determined by the market yield. So there is a specific guidelines given on for that. Okay, now the third one is the fourth one is the paragraph 129 to 131, which talks about the long-term employee benefit. Again, same, you need to actually determine the accrued liability using the project unit method, and for this is for the level 2 level 3 where the employees are more than 50. So no need to follow any other method, you can do this, and discount rate can be based on the market yields or the government bonds. Yep. Now coming to when the employees are less than 50. So the first two exemptions are similar. They deal with the recognition and measurement of short-term accumulating compensated absence. Okay, which are non-vesting. So you no need to comply with the paragraph 11 to 16 in that case. The second exemption goes with the discounting of amount more than 12 months. Again, it's a more than 12 months, no need to discounting. Discounting is not applicable. Okay. And the third and fourth, which we now saw that based on the actuarial valuation, we need to determine here, or the project unit method. However, here the method which was their project unit method has been changed to some other rational method. Now that can be based on the assumption that the such benefit are payable to employees at the end of accounting year, or any such assumption that enterprise can take. So the project unit method has been done away with. Some another rational method which might be applicable to the enterprise, or which might enterprise deem good. Same way for my other long-term employee benefit, I'll do away with the project unit method, and I'll take some rational method, which is more convenient and which is more easy to adopt, rather than the project unit method. So these are the exemption with respect to the AS 15. Now that was to level 2 and level 3. Level 4, irrespective of number of employees, these all exemptions are applicable to level 4, irrespective of the number of employees. For level 2 and level 3, if it is more than 50, then in some of the cases it's a project unit credit method. If it is less than 50, then you can use some rational method. However, if it is level 4, irrespective of number of employees, you should not follow paragraph 11 to 16, which is with respect to the recognition and measurement of short-term accumulated compensated absence. Paragraph 46 and 139, which is relevant to the discounting. Then paragraph 177 to 123, where project unit method we discussed is not required to be followed for accounting for defined benefit plan, and same way for the other long-term employee benefits also, we are not supposed to follow project unit credit method. Okay, that was AS 15. Now coming to the another exemption, as I said, okay, segment reporting not applicable to level 2, level 3, level 4 entities. Related party disclosure applicable to level 2 entity, but level 3, level 4 again not applicable. Leases, there is an exemption for level 2, 3, 4. Now what this exemption goes, okay. Now there are various exemptions given in the lease standard for level 2, level 3, and level 4. I have tried to bifurcate it on the basis of some in the books of lessee, in the books of lessor, finance lease, operating lease. Okay. Now I prepared this table. Now red ones means you are not supposed to follow this paragraph. Okay. The exemption is available. Where it's a green, you need to follow this paragraph. Exemption is not applicable. So red, paragraph is not applicable, means you have an exemption. Now what is the first exemption which happens for the level 2, level 3, level 4 entity? Is a paragraph 22, a reconciliation. This is the based on the disclosure. This is basically disclosure one, which talks about a reconciliation between total minimum lease payments. Okay, it's relevant to the finance lead, and it's in the books of lessee. So based on the color coding, you can identify. I have done it. It's a book in the books of lessee, and this one in the books of lessor. OL and FL defines finance lease or operating lease related disclosures. Okay. Now, second is which is again not applicable, is the total of future minimum sublease payments. No need to disclose these details. Third, general description of the lease significant leasing arrangement. So, for example, if you have a significant lease, so earlier you were supposed to disclose as general description. You need to provide a general description of the significant lease arrangement. Now, no need to provide these description. These were all related to the finance lease in the books of lessee. In the books of lessor, number 1, which talks about the total future minimum lease payment. Now, total minimum, you are not supposed to disclose the total future minimum lease payment that is going to happen. Total of future minimum sublease payments expected, which are required to be made, no need to disclose. General description of the significant lease, no need to disclose. So these details are excluded from the applicability for level 2, level 3, and level 4 entities. The rest, all of the provisions of the accounting in respect of in the books of lessee are applicable. Then comes to the paragraph 37A. Now goes to the books of lessor. Okay, reconciliation between gross total investment in lease and that is not required. General description of significant leasing arrangement, not required. Accounting policy adaptation in respect of initial direct cost is only required in case of level 2, but not required in case of level 3 and level 4. It's only applicable in level 2 entity. Now these were the finance lease. There is one more paragraph, gross investment less earned income in new business, added during the accounting period. Now this disclosure was earlier required to be made as per the AS. However, for level 4 entities, it is not applicable. For level 2 and level 3, it is still applicable. So a person might think, okay, I may not I'm not a corporate entity, I'm not a company. Although my turnover exceeds 50 crore, I'm not supposed to follow all these disclosures. The answer is wrong. They need to follow all these disclosures whenever, except for the purpose we have an exception or the exemption. Other than that, we need to follow in the preparation of the financial statement and then the disclosure part. All the persons falling under level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4 categories, as per the exemption, they need to follow the accounting standards. There is a general applicability. We'll see the general applicability. Okay, and the special cases where accounting standards are not applicable. But as of now, from general point of view, yes, these are applicable and these are the exemptions. Except this, everything is required to be followed. Again, for in the books of lessor related to my operating lease, future minimum lease payment, not applicable, not required to be shown, not required to be disclosed. General description of lesser significant leasing arrangement, not required to be disclosed. Accounting policy adopted in respect of initial direct cost, only case for the entity level 2, level 3, level 4, again not required. Then comes to the most important AS, which we generally don't look at. That's accounting for taxes on income. Now the exemption with respect to the AS 22 is only and only applicable to level 4 entity, means having turnover less than 10 crore, having borrowings less than 2 crores. So for them only this exemption is applicable. Now this is a reverse exemption, which says that only certain paragraphs are applicable and rest of the standard is not applicable. In all the other cases, it was saying that okay, these paragraphs are not applicable, these additional disclosure requirements were not applicable, but in this standards only few paragraphs have been given, few concepts have been given, and they are said okay, these are only applicable. For example, current tax. Now only provisions related to the current tax are applicable to level 4. Deferred tax is not applicable to level 4 entities. Okay, no need to follow deferred tax concepts for the level 4 entities. Only current tax is applicable. So if a person has a turnover more than 2 crores but less than 10 crores, it falls under the level 4. No other criteria is there, it falls under the level 4. No need to go for the deferred tax. Okay, so only related to current tax, there are certain paragraphs given. What is the definition of current tax, then recognition, then measurement of the current tax, and the presentation. In the presentation also, is given to the limited extent for the current tax. Okay. Now it may happen that earlier entity was classified into level 3 or level 2. Then it came to the level 4. Now what should be done for the deferred tax? Generally, I'll discuss when there is a change in the labels. But generally there is a difference. There is a 2 years cooling period or block period. Okay, if entity from level 2 goes to the level 3 or level 4, there is a 2-year block period that they need to follow. In that block period, they cannot take any exemption available unless till that was applicable to them. For example, if an entity goes from level 2 to level 3, whatever exemption it was applicable to level 2, they can only take for 2 years that much exemption. They cannot take any additional exemption of level 3 or level 4. In the same way, when 2 years complete, whatever deferred tax is there, it needs to be adjusted against revenue reserves. You can adjust that against the revenue reserves. So no need to follow deferred tax if an entity is a level 4 entity. Okay. Now another disclosure which goes that exemption goes, we discussed earning per share. Okay, we discussed the lease. Earning per share not applicable, consolidation not applicable, accounting only applicable to taxes applicable to only level 4. Investment in joint is not applicable. Discontinued operations not applicable to level 3, level 4. Interim financial reporting not applicable to 2, 3, 4. Intangibles, only there is one exemption for the level 4. Let us see this exemption. Now what is this exemption calls is that financial, there was a paragraph 19 which requires to disclose that the financial for each class of intangibles distinguish between internally generated intangibles and other intangibles. And there was a certain more details, a reconciliation of carrying amount, impairment losses, or impairment losses recognized or reversed in the P&L. These kind of details are not required as of now for the level 4 entity. For rest of the entities, it is still required. The whole standard is fully applicable. Financial reporting of interest in joint ventures not applicable to level 2, level 3, level 4 entities. Again, impairment of asset, there is an exemption for level 2 and level 3 entities. This standard is not applicable for level 4 entities. And provision for contingent liabilities and contingent asset, there is an exemption for all the 3 entities. We'll discuss AS 28 and AS 29 exemptions. Okay, AS 28 exemption, what talks about in a value in use. Okay, entities are allowed to measure value in use on the basis of reasonable estimate rather than going for a present value technique in the impairment. Okay, so consequently level 1, level 2, level 3 non-company entities choose to measure value in use by not using present value technique. That is the exemption which is given. And there is one more exemption given which is not applicable to level, these resources are not applicable to level 3, which goes to the impairment of cash generating unit. So there is an impairment loss, okay, for an individual asset or cash generating unit is recognized or reversed during the periods. Let's say for an individual asset. Now the reportable segment. So for example, for that particular reportable segment, we are not supposed to disclose. That is not applicable. That okay, from which segment it was there, the segment bifurcation of impairment loss. Those technical those detailed bifurcation is not applicable, as AS 17 itself is not applicable. Another for a cash generating unit, description of cash generating unit, amount of impairment loss, and enterprise is encouraged to disclose okay amount of impairment loss or or reversed by the class of cash generating unit is not applicable for the level 3 entities. For level 4 entities, this whole standard is not applicable. Coming to AS 29, provisions, contingent liability and contingent asset. Now what is applicable in this case for level 2, level 3, level 4, there is a exemption given that for each class of provision, carrying amount at the beginning of the period, additional provision made, amount used, amount unused. There was a bifurcation given, or a disclosure given in the books of account, in the financial statement. Now that particular disclosure is now not required for level 2, level 3, level 4 entities. Okay, now no need to disclose the movement for particular these type of entities. Another exemption which is given is with the class of the provision, disclosure with respect to the class of the provision, a brief description and the nature of obligation, and expected timing, any result of the outflows not required to be disclosed, an indication of uncertainty about the future outflows not required to be disclosed, an amount of unexpected reimbursement stating that in against of a provision not required to be disclosed. These things and these disclosures are not required. Now basically this was the detailed one, which are the policies, which are the paragraphs not required to be disclosed, or exemptions available to the account with respect to the accounting standard for level 1, level 2, level 3 entity. Okay, now coming back to one important question. Okay, whether this whole whatever discussions we done, whatever AS applicability we done, discussion we done, is it applicable to all the entities? Let's say for example, if it's a small trader, okay, now who needs to ensure these disclosures are required to be done? So whatever standards are there, who needs to ensure? That's the main purpose, main point comes here. Who needs to ensure? Now whenever you look at to the general preface to the accounting standards, or various guidelines, or the various acts applicable, okay, let's say our guidance note to tax audit, in that case it is clear cut mentioned that auditor needs to make sure that books of accounts reflect the true and fair view, and they reflect that whether the books of accounts are made based on the applicable reporting framework. When I say applicable reporting framework, that includes these standards. Where there is a silence, where there is no other pronouncement present, the CA, a chartered accountant, member of an institute, need to make sure that the applicable reporting framework is based on this category: level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4 for non-corporate entities. Okay. Now, wherever MSME, when I say MSME, it includes level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. Level 1 is not called an MSME. Level 2, level 3, and level 4 entities are called an MSME. When I say entity, it includes individual, HUF, firms, and everything, non-corporate entities. Okay, whenever an MSME avails any exemption or relaxation, we talk about the exemption or relaxation givens, they need to disclose that fact. I'll also show you a draft note to financial statement which talks about how a disclosure is required to be made. Okay, now first of all, what is the fact they need to disclose? It's an MSME. The level of an MSME, it is compliant with the accounting standard insofar they are applicable to the entities, whether level 2, 3, 4, or as the case may be. Okay, so they need to disclose, okay, a particular person, let's say going for a tax audit, preparing books of account, falls under level 2. He needs to make sure I'm a level 2 MSME. There should be a disclosure, and whatever exemptions which has been taken, they need to make sure that those exemptions are present. Okay, if an entity covered in level 2, level 3, or level 4 opts not to avail exemption or relaxation, okay, to that level of entities or to a particular section of a standard, okay, let's say there are 3 exemptions available to level 2, but I am only opting only 1. So I need to disclose which all exemptions I have availed and which all exemptions I have not availed. So I'll show you one disclosure. Okay, this disclosure can be a part of your notes to account. Okay, note can be anything. Number, based on the criteria for classification of a non-company's entities as issued by the ICAI in the year, whichever year for audit is being carried on, okay, whether it's a tax audit or any other audit, the particular XYZ entity, whatever entity name is, was falling under MSME level 2, 3, 4. Select appropriate. And hence XYZ has availed the below mentioned exemption in preparation and presentation of financial statement for the period of March. In most of the cases, this is missing. I have seen major of the tax audits, this is missing. If you are not complying to the accounting standards, if you are taking an exemption of a particular accounting standard, you need to make sure that this note is present. Otherwise, it will be not a compliance to the accounting standard or this to the guidelines. Also, they need to make sure that whatever exemption you take, you should mention in detail, okay, these all exemptions we have taken. And rest, all then other than the rest, they need to make sure that, okay, for the rest, it is applicable. Now, most of the cases, there is no bifurcation, whether it's a level 1 entity, level 2 entity, level 3 entity, level 4 entity. Even in case of a tax audit, we prepare we see the tax audit report. However, there is no disclosure of level in the tax audit, in the financial statement prepared for the tax audit. So basically, we need to make sure this classification is present. Okay. Comparison. Now, there we are supposed to give comparatives. Okay. We are supposed to give comparatives for level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. Now, what if we change a level? How to give a comparative? Since earlier we were level 3, now we fall to level 2. Earlier we took certain exemptions, now no exemption is available. So let's say those exemptions are not available. Now what to do? In that case, no need to revise your previous year numbers. No need to revise your previous year numbers. Only state the fact that, okay, these were the previous year classification, this is the current year classification, and on the basis of that, the accounts has been prepared or the financial statement has been prepared. You just need to make sure you mention that fact. There is another note which I have prepared for reference purpose. This is a note which can be this. For example, during the financial year 31st March ended, based on the criteria of classification of non-companies, this was classified as NC 1, 2, 3, 4. However, due to below mentioned regions, now XYZ fall under the category, whatever category is applicable. And during the current financial year, the company has complied with the all relevant accounting standard issued by ICA for non-corporate company entities applicable to NSE 1, MSME 1, MSME 2, MSME 3 or 4. That can be reason, can be any. As per the applicable reason, you need to make sure the company listed its security or in the progress. During the current financial year, the turnover exceeded the threshold of whatever threshold is given, let's say 250, 50, 10, or during the current financial year, the threshold of 50 crore, 2 crore or 10 crore of the borrowing has exceeded. During the current financial year, XYZ invested in this company or any other company invested in XYZ, and as a result, a holding subsidiary relationship came. Also, we need to make sure this note is present. Although the comparative for the financial year, these are not restated on the account of change of XYZ classification from NSE1. NCE1 means non-corporate entity level 1. Level 1 basically. For level 2, level 3, level 4, we use terminology MSME 2, MSME 3, MSME 4. Okay. So either it can be either earlier was level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, and hence there is no restatement of account. You can use this disclosure format as a notes to financial statement and then disclose the relevant information in this format. And this is required as per the scheme of ICAI. Now fall down classification. If you fall from level 2 to level 3, level 3 to level 4, level 1 to level 2, if you fall, there is a 2-year cooling period. Now what happens in the 2-year cooling period? You only are eligible to take the exemptions which were available to you. For example, you were into the level 2 and less number of exemptions were available to you. Now you came to level 3. Now in that case, you can take only exemptions which were available in level 2. You cannot take for the 2 years of exemptions which are available to level 3. Once this cooling period of 2 years is done, then only you can take the exemption of level 3. Same way with 4. Once you fall to the level 4, there is a cooling period. If you follow that cooling period, till that cooling period, you cannot take the exemptions which are available to the next level. But after 2 years, you can take all the exemptions which are applicable to that particular level. So there is a 2 years cooling period in a fall down case. But when you increase, when you jump from level 3 to level 2, you have to do away with all the exemptions which are available into the level 3. Only you can take to the level 2 exemptions. So there is no period given. You need to follow those exemptions. You need to do away those exemptions immediately. So for example, earlier you were level 2, now you came to level 1. Okay, in that case, all the accounting standards are applicable, including cash flow. So earlier you were level 2, so cash flow was not applicable. Now you became level 1, now cash flow is also applicable. However, if you fall from level 1 to, let's say, level 2, then for the 2 years you need to prepare the cash flow. But only after 2 years you can discontinue preparing the cash flow, and you need to make sure you mention in the notes that okay, 2 years has been lapsed. Now this entity is continuously falling under the level 2. Okay, so in a fall down there is a 2-year gap. However, in the reverse way, you need to follow immediately. So people might be thinking whether we are supposed to make cash flow for level 2, level 3, level 4. Answer is no. For level 2, level 3, level 4, cash flow statement is not required. Moving ahead, comparison of MSME with 44AB. Now, a lot of people might be confused whether these things are applicable in tax audit or not. I'll provide a comparison and a detailed example also, a detailed guidance over there also. Some people say, okay, we are applicable with the ICDS. ICDS is applicable. In the AS is not applicable. Now you need to make sure that you need to understand that ICDS only is for computation of income. Is not for the maintenance of the books of account. Is not for the preparation of financial statement. It is also written in the preface of the ICDS. It's for the computation of income. For, let's say, profit and gains from business and profession, and income from other sources. It's for the computation of income. It has nothing to do with the maintenance of book of the account and the preparation of financial statement. Okay, so it can happen that okay, ICDS is also applicable, but AS is also applicable. So in that case, we need to understand what is the current scenario. So let's say I'll take an example: turnover less than 1 crore, audit limit. Okay, if a turnover is less than 1 crore, no 44AB audit is applicable. Okay, now 44AB audit is not applicable. So usually what happens is, person is only required to file income tax return. He is not required to file. He is not required to carry any audit. However, to the extent applicable MSME 4, he will be falling under the MSME 4. So he has a limited sets of accounting standard to follow. If there is no audit, then it's the auditor has not to report whether the books of account has been prepared by the accounting standard or not. It's the responsibility of the assessee to prepare or to present to prepare the financial statement whenever he is preparing as per the relevant accounting standards which are issued by the ICAI. However, only this classification is only applicable when a member of institutes comes into the picture in case of an audit. There he needs to make sure that the classification is appropriately followed. So for example, if a person who is not subject to the institute's guideline, he has no turnover greater than 1 crore, he is preparing only books of accounts, not required to do audit, do he need to follow India's mandatorily? There is no mandatory guidance as per the ICAI. ICAI guidance will not apply to him. However, it's advisable to follow, but there is nothing you can say penal provision or mandatory guidelines that he needs to follow, otherwise there will be a non-compliance. These guidelines come only into the picture when there is a member of institute involved in the attestation functions for those particular entities. If a member of an institute is involved for the attestation functions for that particular entities, like you say level 4 entity, level 3 entity, level 2 entity, at that point in time, that particular member of institute, that particular CA needs to make sure that based on the classification, the accounting standards are followed. I hope it's very much clear. Okay. Also there is a guidance note given in para 10.9 which talks about that financial AS is also applicable in respect of the financial statement audited under section 44AB of the Income Tax Act. Okay. Accordingly, members are supposed to examine whether should examine whether the applicable accounting standard are being followed or not based on the criteria. So in case of a tax audit, yes, we need to make sure this classification is being followed, this bifurcation is being followed, MSME, NCE1, MSME2, MSME3, MSME4, and on the basis of that, accounting standards are required to be followed. I hope the comparison is clear with the 44AB tax audit. Okay. Now, when we go to the general application, to whom accounting standards are applicable? As per the framework, given in the accounting standards, we will read the general application, we'll read the general framework of the accounting standard, and then we'll, go and discuss each criteria, each scenario. Now, accounting standards are designed to apply general purpose financial statement and other financial reporting, which are subject to the attest function of the member of ICAI. So if there is a attest function of the member of ICAI, and if includes general purpose financial statement and other financial reporting, then accounting standards are designed to accounting standards will apply. Now, in that case, a member of institute, a CA needs to make sure, okay, whatever accounting standards are prepared should be, financial statements are prepared should be based on the appropriate applicable accounting standards. We call it the applicable reporting framework. Now, applicable reporting framework changes from level 1, 2, 3, 4, which we saw. That is given in the that is given in the framework of the accounting standard. Accounting standards apply in respect of any enterprise, whether it's a corporate, cooperative, or other firm. When I say other firm, individual, HUF, partnership firm, LLP, engaged in commercial, industrial, business activities, irrespective whether it's a profit oriented or established for charitable or regional religious purpose. Now, engage in a commercial or industrial or business, when even a single, there is a chance, even a single transaction of commerce happens, AS will be applicable. And AS will be applicable when there is a attest function of member of ICAI, means there is a engagement of attestation. Okay. So CA needs to make sure standards are being followed when there is an audit or attestation function. Okay, standard are followed based on the criteria. He needs to make sure that these guidelines are applied when the financial statement are being prepared, and these accounting standards are applicable to all the non-corporate entities, whether cooperative society, other forms that I discussed, individual, HUF, partnership, even when there is only a single transaction of commerce, even a single transaction of commerce, irrespective whether that single transaction of commerce is carried for a charitable or religious purpose. If it is a transaction of commerce, you need to make sure that accounting standard is being applied. Okay. It will be the duty of the member of institute to examine whether the accounting standard is complied with in the presentation of the financial statement covered by their audit. If they do not look into this, or if they fail to make sure this thing, then it's a non-compliance on the part of the institute of a member of a chartered accountant. In most of the cases of a tax audit, we have seen that that this criteria, this level 1, level 2, level 3 is not being followed. In that case, we need to make sure each and every chartered accountant need to make sure these guidelines are being followed when there is a matter of audit, when they are performing the audit. However, there is an exemption given for application of accounting standard. This talks about that accounting standards will not apply. And for the enterprise carrying on only activities which are of not commercial, industrial, business nature. For example, collecting donations and giving them to flood affected people. If they are into non-commercial, industrial, business nature, then it is not applicable. Accounting standard is not applicable. Basically, NGOs. If you can say non-governmental organizations, NGOs carried for the donation purpose, they provide the relief funds, everything like that. So there is an exclusion for that. Now this exclusion is only applicable when all the transactions are of this nature. If even a single transaction comes of a commercial nature, for example, we have all the transaction for the charitable nature. However, there is only 1,000 rupees income which comes from the commercial nature. Then the accounting standards will apply and will apply to all the transactions. Even if a very small portion of the activities of enterprise is considered to be commercial, then the accounting standard will apply to all its activities, including to which are not of the nature of commercial, industrial, or business. So not only to the commercial part, but it will apply to everything. So as a CA, when there is an audit going on, when we are taking an assignment of an audit or attestation function, we need to make sure that only AS accounting standard will not apply in case where there is a fully charitable or non-commercial, industrial, or non-business activity. Otherwise, AS will apply. And when I say AS will apply, disclosure parts of the AS, the specific notes to account disclosures are required to be done, and the chartered accountant is required to make sure that those disclosures are appropriate as per the standards, which at most of the time we exclude. We don't do that. We think in the tax audit purposes or in certain audits, some of the in cases I have seen that okay, these standards are not followed from fully disclosure points of view. Notes of accounts, they are not of that up to mark. There are many things which entity doesn't disclose, which are usually entities are required to be required to disclose. So let's say, for example, I'll take an example of leases. So in most of the cases, we don't see an appropriate lease disclosure when there is a tax audit or any other audit, except for the company's audit. So it's a duty of a chartered accountant to make sure that these accounting standards are being followed while preparation and presentation of financial statement. If it is not, then you need to appropriately make sure that you need to disclose that in your audit report, that accounting standards were applicable by this way. However, these are not followed. You need to bring that fact in your audit report, which doesn't happen. And in some of the cases I have seen, it doesn't happen. Now, when I say, we saw earlier that accounting standards are designed to apply to the general purpose financial statement. Now, what is a general purpose financial statement? General purpose financial statement include balance sheet, statement of profit and loss account, a cash flow statement, and other explanatory note which form parts of thereof, issued for the use of various stakeholders, including government and their agencies. So tax audit is issued for the purpose of income tax department, government and their agencies. Now at that point in time, whatever balance sheet, P&L we are preparing are general purpose financial statement, and they are supposed to be prepared as per the accounting standards which we discussed earlier. I hope it is clear till now. Now, how these accounting standards comes into the play and how we are supposed to make sure that these accounting standards are complied with. Okay. Now we'll discuss some of the cases, like we discussed the tax audit. We'll discuss the cooperative societies audit. whether these accounting standards are applicable for the cooperative societies audit. Okay. Now, cooperative societies are generally governed by the Cooperative Society Act. I have taken one example of Maharashtra Cooperative Society Act 1961, and therefore Maharashtra Cooperative Society rules. It differs from state to state, but there is a very small variation on that part. So as per a rule of Maharashtra Cooperative Society Rule 69, it states that the auditor shall submit an audit memorandum to the Society of Registrar in the form on the account examined by him and on the balance sheet and profit and loss account. Now, auditor shall submit when a CA does an audit, and if it involves general purpose financial statement, which includes balance sheet and P&L, at that point in time, this classification triggers level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. Now, based on this classification, for cooperative societies are also required to be bifurcated, and then we need to make sure the accounting standards are being followed. So, as on the date of for the period up to which accounting has been operated and shall be whether an opinion, okay. In that case, balance sheet, which is the state of affairs of society at the end of financial year, and subsequent are accounts made up examined by him, and profit and loss account, which is the profit and loss account for the financial year. So here we are talking about balance sheet, P&L, general purpose financial statement, again examined by a chartered accountant, auditor appointed in this behalf by the registrar. So in that case, it is our duty as a chartered accountant to make sure whether the accounting standards are appropriately followed in the preparation and presentation of these balance sheet and P&L. Now you will say whether it is applicable. We saw the general purpose definition also. The general purpose definitions also for general purpose definition of the framework of the accounting standards says that whether organized in the corporate, cooperative, and other form, accounting standards apply. So accounting standards apply to cooperative society audit also in that case. Another thing is there is one more rule which talks about whether the auditor has obtained all the information explanation related to the proper books of accounts so far kept by the society, whether the balance sheet and profit and loss account examined by him are in agreement with the books of accounts. Okay, now when I say agreement with the books of accounts, then we need to make sure the AS are being followed, balance sheet and P&L are properly prepared, books of accounts are properly kept, and when we will say it are properly kept, when the appropriate accounting treatment as per the applicable accounting standards has been given. So for example, lease, appropriate lease treatment as per the accounting standard has been given, then only we'll say okay, proper books of account has been maintained. Foreign exchange, effect of foreign exchange has been appropriately given as per the standard. Plant, property and equipment has been appropriately followed. Impairment has been appropriately followed to the extent it is applicable. Okay, to the extent it's applicable. Inventories, till the extent it's applicable to the cooperative society. I know inventory is hardly applicable to any cooperative societies, but again, we need to make sure whatever standards are applicable based on the transactions are followed appropriately. And if we make sure that, then only we can say proper books of account has been made. So cooperative society audit also involves application of accounting standards. However, when this audit is being done by a chartered accountant. In some of the states, I'm not sure, but in some of the states, other than a chartered accountant, also a person can audit the cooperative society when a person is specifically appointed by the registrar who is not a chartered accountant. In that case, earlier audits may not be governed by the AS, and the preparation and presentation of financial statement may not be governed by the AS. Then it becomes our duty to make sure that whatever balances we are carrying forwarding here and whatever financial statement are now being prepared are appropriately complied with the accounting standards. So whenever a CA is involved, audit is involved, general purpose financial statements are involved, accounting standards are required to be followed based on the classification. And we need to make sure, it may happen in the past that okay, the audit was not done by an accounting standard, but a specific officer appointed by the registrar. In that case, he may or may not be a chartered accountant. If he was not a chartered accountant, then he might not have followed the accounting standard for the preparation of presentation of financial statement. then it is our duty to make sure that the accounting standards are being followed when the next year books are prepared, financial statements are prepared. And now the question will arise, how we will give the treatment of the transaction which are already being recorded. In that case, to the extent for the current year, whatever treatment we can give, we will provide. However, there is no need to restate the numbers of the previous year. No need to restate the number of previous year, no need to restate the accounting treatment of the previous year. To the extent it is possible to rectify in the current year, you should do. Otherwise, for the previous year, no restatement is required. Now, there is one more case which are non-corporate entities, which is real estate, trust, infrastructure trust, and real estate trust. Now, these REITs and INVITs are required to follow Ind AS, and there is a specific SEBI circular which asks them to follow Ind AS. Okay, so although these are non-corporate entities, but there's a specific guidelines which SEBI asks them to follow Ind AS. Hence, chartered accountant, while doing audits of these entities, should not apply, the AS classification. They should follow the Ind AS in these cases, although these are non-corporate entities. But there's a separate, circular issued by the SEBI for the application of Ind AS for these kind of categories. So remember, at the start we saw, if Ind AS is applicable by any forms, then we are not supposed to apply AS. Okay, so if any of the entity where SEBI, MCA, or any other body has already issued that, okay, you are supposed to follow Ind AS, in that case we are not supposed to apply this guidelines of AS. Accounting standard for local bodies. Now first we need to understand what are the local bodies, okay, and whether the AS is applicable to the local bodies or not. Okay, the term local body may be defined as a self local government at the third tier of the governance, or you can say municipal corporation, municipality, panchayat. Why third tier? First tier is the central government, second tier is the state government, and third tier can be the local authorities, governmental authorities. Those are the third tier. Third tier, municipal corporation, municipalities, panchayat. I'll give you a recent example. Recently, few of the municipal corporation issued their debentures, got their debentures listed on the stock exchange. Now, when anyone gets their account, gets their stocks listed on the stock exchange, number one, above that, they are supposed to follow. When securities are listed on the stock exchange, AS is required to be followed. So whenever an audit will be carried by a chartered accountant, AS is required to be followed. However, there is one more exemption given for the local bodies. I'll discuss in detail. Okay, local bodies can delegate their function to the different what you say, departments, like power supply department, water department, transport department of a particular city. Then there can be a sub bifurcation, development authorities. In Maharashtra, MIDC, in Gujarat, GIDC. Different bodies are there which are set up under the act. They can be classified under the corporate, or they cannot be. Like in some of the cases, they are not classified under the corporate, they are classified as the local bodies. So in that case, which accounting standards will be applicable? All the such entities are classified as the local bodies. Now we'll see what is applicable to them. Now, if you see, the purpose of the local bodies is to carry activities for the people, and therefore the objective for the corporate, the objective is to pass on the accurate information for their clients, their stakeholders, general public. In case of a local body, financial reporting by the local bodies are to provide information about the entity that is useful to their users of GPFRs, general purpose financial for the accountability purpose and the decision making purpose. Means what they have done, whether the decision making was appropriate or not. Okay, Hence, there is a separate committee on accounting standards for local bodies, which has issued separate set of standards for accounting for local bodies. Those accounting standards are applicable to them. Okay. Also, there is one more set of accounting standards, which are accounting standards for local body issued by International Public Sector Accounting Standard Board. Now, usually, a committee has already converged those accounting standards here, but again, that is, for the reference purpose, they can be looked upon. Now, what about the accounting standard issued by the ICAI, whether those are applicable? Now, there was a transitional provision which was applicable. Now, what transitional provision was saying that that accounting standards that AS designed by the ICAI are not designed to apply to the local bodies. However, since standards lay down the wholesome principle of accounting, okay, local bodies may follow these standards during transitional period until accounting standards for the local bodies are issued by the committee. So committee has issued certain standards, until the time where there is no purpose, no clarity or no particular standards issued for a particular type of transaction. Till the time these accounting standards can be complied with, if there is no clear-cut guidance given in the ASLB accounting standard for the local bodies. However, if there is a separate accounting standard issued for the local bodies, then that will prevail over the general purpose accounting standards which we are discussing over here. So, separate accounting standards for the local bodies. I hope it is clear. Okay, guys. So I took various examples. I have purposefully kept a lot of time for the discussion and for the question answer, so that I can understand. It will be more helpful for you people to answer the to answer your questions. Let me check for the.
Sir, is there any question?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Kirti, for tax audit, we have to follow these levels. As I told you, when there is a tax audit, yes, chartered accountant involved, yes, general purpose financial statement, then you need to follow these levels. What about okay, and guys, questions? Yeah, any questions? Because guys, the more you will understand, if you have a doubt with respect to any particular entity, particular type of non-corporate entity, please ask. But the basic principle goes like this. Number one, if a CA is involved. Number two, attestation function is involved. Okay. Number three, general purpose financial statements are involved. If all these three are yes, then the accounting standards are applicable. Now you need to go and you need to see in that case, okay, under which level it is falling, level 1, 2, 3, 4. And on the basis of that, you need to apply the accounting standard. You need to prepare the you need to make sure the management has prepared the financial statement. Now there is a one question: are these AS to be followed in the case of LLP audits? Answer is yes. It is required to be followed.
Participants are requested to unmute yourself and they can directly ask the questions to us by.
Guys, ask freely. The more you ask,
Hello?
the more you can, Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Just a small question.
Sure.
Charitable Trust is running a music academy, and along with that, they are getting house property income,
Rental
income from a commercial property.
Yes, ma'am.
In that case, this AS provisions will be applicable to the charitable trust.
So, if there is if you read the framework, it says that even if there is a small, commercial income, means these standards will applicable. So whenever a chartered accountant is doing an audit for a particular charitable institute, he needs to make sure the statements are prepared as per the accounting standard.
Acha, okay. Thank you, sir. So means commercial activity and thus running a music school. Since it's a commercial activity, we have to apply the AS provision.
Yeah, and to all the income, even that music academy income also. So each and
Acha.
every transaction will be required to be reported as per the AS. So it will apply to all sources of income, even a single penny, when a single penny comes for a commercial income.
ते विचार attest function म्हणजे काय?
Sir, will you please throw some light on attested function? We are not getting exact meaning of it. Attested function.
When you attest, okay, when you attest, like you provide an assurance of a particular general purpose financial statement. You provide some kind of assurance. Basic example is the audit.
Okay.
Other than audit.
Sir, other than audit, the small entrepreneur at times need their balance sheets and P&L attested, which is required to be submitted with the banking authorities for CC renewal or for some getting additional finance and all. Will it be termed as attested function? Which
So
are
you
very,
are
very
talking
small
about-
units.
Yeah, so you are talking about issuing a certificate for what do you say, like
Yeah, very small units, very small traders, having hardly turnover of 30 lakhs or 40 lakhs or 50 lakhs, but they require this means banking.
Not in audit.
Those who are not under audit, but banking people ask for that you have to get the statements attested, and in that case we generate the audit, and as per the data balance sheet, the passbooks and all, and whatever tally small accounting we do, we give the certificate. So if the attested function is covering that kind of certification also?
okay, let me provide you the clarification on this. Okay, when you provide a certificate, okay, you certify certain numbers, these numbers to the bankers, that these numbers are accurate, okay,
Right.
or the numbers are correct or presented appropriately, they reflect the books of account. Now in that case, you need to make sure, okay, these numbers, when you prepare these numbers, that these numbers forms as a part of a general purpose financial statement. And whenever you perform, you give a assurance, it involves a attestation, and again you need to follow the labels, and accounting
But
standards
sir,
will be applicable.
But sometimes what is happening, like in case of a small firms like my firm, this attestation we do at a latter part. But see, for example, assessment year 2021 is already over. We have filed the return as per the bank passbooks and vouchers they have given to us. And now after 6 months or 8 months, they may be asking us to get it attested and submit it to the bank. In that case, how to overcome this difficulty?
Okay, so let me ask you one question. Are you talking about certifying that these are the true copies, or providing the assurance over the number?
Sir, this statement covers computation, balance sheet, profit and loss account, and capital account, which is a very, very small
So you are talking
trader.
about true copies. You sign it, do it as a true copies and provide it to bank. Okay, these are the true
Yeah.
copies of the person. If you
Yes,
see,
sir.
there is a guidance note by ICAI which talks about that guidance note on special purpose guidance note on certificates. That particularly talks about that a member of institute cannot do a true copy. So,
So, but we are not doing true. So, it is not like a true copy. Whatever the bank statement, whatever the vouchers they give for purchase bills and sale bills, based on that we prepare their balance sheet, profit and loss account, and your
They are under
capital account.
GST, so they have to maintain books.
And see that turnover is in between that GST bracket, like it is exceeding 20 lakhs or 40 lakhs. So we have to have that small tally accounting, and based on that we prepare their statement, and accordingly we produce it to the department. And after 6 months, 8 months, these people ask us, please attest our balance sheet P&L, which we want to submit it to the bankers for any fresh loan or for CC renewal or all that kind of very small traders ranging having turnover between 30 to 50 lakhs or 60 lakhs.
Yes, ma'am. In that case, yes, accounting standards are required to be followed. I give you reason why. I give you reason. Now, what happens, madam? In that case, you are giving an assurance that numbers are accurate and correct. and the whatever numbers you are submitting are reflecting, true and fair view of the books of account. Those numbers can only reflect the true and fair view when the accounting standards are being followed as per the ICAI guidelines or the framework which is being laid down, that members who are giving any kind of assurance that the numbers reflect the true set of books of accounts. Okay. Or they are prepared as per the what you say, to give a true and fair view. In that case, they can only give a true and fair view when we follow accounting standards. If we don't follow accounting standards, they cannot give a true or fair view.
Okay, so, I got your point, sir.
Yeah.
But in that case, a small additional query in the sense, while preparing the statement, we have to take that care. But it will not be see, in small cases, we don't prepare any kind of notes to the statement. But we have to just take care that these all things are followed.
Correct. Yeah. Generally, if you see, so for example, when you see a accounting standard, okay, when I talk about a 60 lakh turnover company or 70 lakh turnover company, so what happens is they don't have that much complex transactions which require huge disclosures.
Right, okay. Right, sir. I agree.
Okay. So certain disclosures which is already being complied with, if you see, they will fall under the level 4. Level 4 hardly has the applicability of the few accounting standards. Hardly
right,
6 to 7, which we already follow.
Right, sir. I understood. Means while preparing the medium scale firms which are not under audit, at least we have to verify that all these things are in a right direction. Because in future, if we need to certify, then we can certify it without any hesitation.
Correct.
Yeah, I understood, sir. But thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Hello, sir.
And yes, ma'am.
Can I, or somebody is in the queue?
No,
can
please,
I?
Sir,
we have just heard about all this level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. I just want to have institute has given the bifurcation based on the levels, but any further clarity about level wise means, suppose if we are conducting any audit ranging between level 2, level 3, then we have to categorize these many audits are under particular level. Then we have to focus on that particular standards and minutely regarding the exemptions. AS is applicable, but these are exemptions. So any further clarity, like any guidance note or any notes are circulated over it, because while going through the audit, we have to understand it again and again.
Okay, so you are looking for a particular document. So will this document will be good for you? This what I have prepared a table summary.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah.
So I have provided the detail here. What are the exemptions and everything? So I'll circulate this document. Don't worry on that part.
Okay, sir. Okay. Yes. Thank you very much, sir.
My pleasure.
Will you share your email or any kind of contact in case we need to have any consultancy or any guidance of you?
It's on the screen. You can contact me on these details, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So there's a question from Rohan Pathak.
Yeah.
Do we have audit report for MSME level 4 disclosure of account compliances of AS?
Do we? Sorry.
Do we have audit report format for MSME level 4 disclosure of compliance of AS?
See, when I talk about the level 4, okay, and audit format. So now what happens is, either your audit formats goes with a particular reporting law under which you are doing an audit. Let's say cooperative society, so there is a specific format. If there's a tax audit, there is a specific format for that. However, if there is no specific format defined, then you can go with the standards on auditing, SA 700, which defines reports, your unmodified opinion, modified opinion, everything. From there you can define your format of audit report. I hope I have satisfied the query.
So next question.
Yes.
In case of an LLP, who has a diagnostic center and earns business income apart from rental income as well. So does the applicable accounting standard falls on the rental income as well apart from business income? I think we have already
It will fall. Yeah. Even if you have a small single 1 rupee commercial income, AS will apply to all your incomes.
So another question from Press Ruparel. In case of a firm or an LLP or any non-corporate entity, if that entity is asked by any authority, say for example a bank, asked to give an end-use certificate, in which case a CA certifies the financials. So does that entity have to follow accounting standards? I think yes.
So the reason is, if you are going for an end use certificate, in that case you need to make sure, okay, how will you verify the end use has been done correct by the finance books of account? Okay, now if the when you will say the books of accounts are accurate, when they are prepared as per the accounting standards, then only you can go, okay, books of account are correct and the end use has been done. So yes, AS will be applicable.
Again, a question from Prayesh Ruparel self. Also, in case of projected or provisional financial statements, do we need to implement the applicability accounting standards? I think yes.
Projected or provisional financial statement. Okay. Now, do you provide a assurance over a like projected? I don't think so. You provide a assurance generally, because these are estimates, forecast. It can go wrong. There is no assurance on that. Yeah, there can be a reasonable judgment, but a reasonable estimate. But I don't think so. There is a reasonable assurance. In that case, AS might not apply. AS shouldn't apply.
Actually, we are not supposed to. I think so.
Yes, sir.
Actually, we are not supposed to certify.
Yeah, we are not supposed to certify. These are judgments, estimates. And if you see the basic accounting principle, historical cost convention, it will not be applicable to that, because you don't know what will be the cost. We are just estimating it. So it won't apply. Basic accounting principle, he won't apply in those cases.
So basically, any documents which you certify accounting standards, we have to compare with the accounting standards. It depends on level, under which level you fall. It falls.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Any other questions from the participants?
Number 99745.
Guys, please ask your questions freely. Don't think that it's a small question or silly questions or anything. Please ask your questions freely. Every question has a equal importance.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Can I? According to this revised is now tax audit 3CD report is expected to revise.
Sorry.
Hello. Yeah, is this 3CD tax audit report is expected to revise based on this?
No.
No.
3CD reporting is a different thing. That there are separate clauses which are required to be reported. There is a separate reporting for the 3CD. AS is when you prepare your financial statements.
But so in that,
yeah.
AS, as per AS, whatever the disclosure is required, 3CD, particularly in 3CD, there is a small space available. So are we supposed to report comments on that particular section?
Ma'am, your
while
voice
we
is going on.
Yeah, while we upload 3CP and 3CD on the income tax portal, under the 3CB, there is a small space provided for general comment. Under that space, is it expected to give the disclosure of AS applicability of AS?
Okay. If you see the general application of the accounting standards, how it goes, like, okay, if you have taken certain exemptions, then you need to make sure that exemptions are noted. If you have not taken any exemptions, then we usually write a note that if you see when we write notes to account, we prepare notes to accounts. Okay, my first note goes like that. Okay, preparation of financial statement. The financial statements are prepared based on the accounting standard and general purpose applicable accounting principles. So in that it's already covered. No need to mention.
When particular exemptions if you are going for, then it is better to claim that and write a note over it.
Correct. But usually if you see, those exemptions are very what you say, are applicable in a complex transactions. Generally those exemptions are not applicable in a normal day-to-day transaction. So in most of the cases, these exemptions, even the transaction will not be there to whom this disclosures apply. So then only if a transaction is there to which this disclosure applied, then only you can take an exemption. If there is no such transaction, then the application of provision will not be there. So no need to mention even the exemption also.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure.
So there is a question from Komal Gunani. Do these standards apply to trust that are audited under the Trust Act?
Again, you need to make sure these three things: commercial activity, general purpose financial statement, and if you are doing the audit, yes, it is required to be.
Financial statements there are mute
If you need to, then you need to see what is the commercial activity is there or not, and on the basis of that.
Only the trusts are carrying out commercial activity, then only the account standards are applicable. So basically, almost all the trusts are liable to audit.
Liable to audit, yes.
So there is one question of Geeta Golani madam. What is the main objective of making this account standard applicable?
Okay, the main objective is to, when we say the books of account should depict the true and fair view. Okay, now when they will depict, when you follow the accounting principles. Today, if for example, if a revenue entry, okay, a revenue recognition, if I record the revenue on my own basis, today I am recording the revenue which is going to accrue after, let's say, 2 months, or revenue has been accrued, I am not recorded today because I think I won't record now, I'll record after 2 months. So these accounting standards ensures that your accounting entries, whatever you pass, recognition of revenue, expense, lease entries, fixed asset, depreciation, are appropriate. And that makes your accounting, and that makes your financial statement appropriate. And then only you can say, okay, my financial statement can give a true and fair view of whatever transaction I have carried out. That's why these are there is a necessity to make these accounting standards applicable.
Any other questions? So in the start, you have mentioned the applicable account standards based on level 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever maybe. And if both the conditions has to be satisfied, turnover conditions and borrowing condition, or anyone?
No. So those conditions, let me show you. This is a or, not and. So these conditions goes with the or. Either securities are listed, either it can be a banking NBFC or whatever. Either it is exceeding turnover 250 crore or it's a borrowing more than 50. These are or, not and.
Okay.
Any questions, guys? Any question? I think we don't have further questions.
I don't think there are any further questions. You are too super today.
Thank you.
All the participants on the standards. May I request Karan to propose the hearty vote of thanks to us.
Thank you, Harshad ji. Friends, indeed, it was a great session from CA Harshad Tekwani ji. He has covered the accounting standards for non-corporates and explained us all the 4 level of entities and which accounting standard is applicable to which level. He has explained things in the simplest form. I am sure this will benefit the practitioners and listeners to today's session. Sir, it was a pleasure being a part of this session. I once again thank you on behalf of the entire Kalyan CP Study Circle and all the members for taking this today's session and enlightening us on accounting standards. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. It was my pleasure to be here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Looking forward to hear you again.
Definitely, sir. It will be my pleasure to be here and to serve the fraternity.
Yeah, great, sir.
Thank you, everyone.
with this,
Thank you for
we end
hearing
the
us. Yes, sir. Please go ahead. Sorry.
Anurag, any announcement?
Not yet. Just one thing I would like to mention. We were planning to have a webinar on 8th of this month. So we are already talking to the speaker. Once it is finalized, the same will be announced to the members.
Okay. Can we conclude?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.